look what we're starting off with here. Basic mortgage terms and concepts. Now listen guys, when we say basic words and concepts, do not try to turn yourself into an attorney. I do want you to have word associations. But you're going to ask questions, well, why is this or why is this? A lot of times it's not going to matter, okay? These are just words and these are concepts to you. For example, when you go and borrow money, the bank gives you money and then you mortgage your property back to the bank. A lot of us say we have a mortgage. A lot of people say I'm going to the bank to get a mortgage. Technically, you don't go to the bank to get a mortgage. You go to a bank to get what? Money. The bank requires you to put your property up as collateral. That's the mortgage. All things being equal, I'd rather not have a mortgage. I just want the money. But the bank feels more comfortable. I'll pay it back if they have a lien on the house, right? Now, why do I mention that? I tell you, first of all, we're going to be talking about it a lot. But secondly, in North Carolina, we technically don't use the mortgage concept. I'm not trying to change your language when you leave this room. But I want you to understand that there's a difference between what most states call a mortgage and what North Carolina calls a deed of trust. So with that introduction, let's take a look at these two words and let's talk about the important points. And you see the North Carolina flag beside this. North Carolina uses what's known as a deed of trust, right, Debbie? You would think that that would have been right at the top, but we must have left it off. North Carolina uses a deed of trust to collateralize debt, real estate debt. We use a deed of trust, not technically a mortgage. A deed of trust is a three-party instrument. A mortgage is a two-party instrument. Now, I do want you to know the names of the parties in a deed of trust. I'm sure this is in the book. I like my drawing a little better. It just tends to be a little more simple. I told you that a deed of trust was a three-party instrument. It might be easy to figure out who two of the parties are. There's someone who needs money, right? I'm going to call him, for right now, a borrower. But I'm going to come back and give him another name in just a moment. The lender is going to be referred to as the beneficiary. So what you commonly refer to as a lender, under the deed of trust, would be known as the beneficiary. Okay? The borrower goes to the bank, and the bank gives the borrower money. So far, so good? And then the bank says, we would like some collateral. Well, what do you want? Your house. That's what we want as collateral. So I want you to watch this. The borrower, which is known as the trustor, in this scenario, the trustor, OR. Remember, that's important. The OR is always giving something, okay? The trustor is giving up title to the property under what is known as a deed of trust to a third party known as a trustee. The lender loans money to the trustor, the borrower. The trustor gives up their collateral, but they do it by signing a deed to the trustee. The trustee is holding this property for the benefit of whom? The lender. They're holding it for the benefit of the beneficiary. Right? Okay, let's focus on this word here for just a moment. Let me give you a, don't write this down, you already have it. Do you remember the definition of a deed? The document for conveying title to real property? Okay? You think you own your property, but you don't. If you owe money to the lender in North Carolina, here's what you did. You gave up legal title to the trustee if you borrowed money from the lender. You gave up legal title. Who holds legal title in the deed of trust? The trustee. Well, if you don't hold legal title, what is it said that the borrower, the buyer, has? You remember the word equitable title? I told you it would come back up. Equitable title. Hey, listen, as long as I perform according to the contract, then I'm going to eventually get legal title to the property, okay? So, the borrower actually conveys title to the trustee. What if I told you this? The deed of trust is a conditional conveyance. The deed of trust, you giving up your property to the trustee, is a conditional conveyance. What's it conditioned upon? You performing. And it might be said it's conditioned upon you not defaulting, right? The deed of trust, you've given up your property, but as long as you do what the mortgage said, the mortgage note said you were going to do, you're eventually going to get legal title. But currently, that trustee holds legal title to the property. Okay? How many parties to the deed of trust? Can you name all of them? Trustee, beneficiary, trustor. Can you understand the concept? Not like an attorney, but how the parts go together.
Yeah.
North Carolina is a title theory state. You see that word up there? North Carolina is a title theory state. Why are we a title theory state? Because we use the deed of trust concept. Don't remember it any more importantly than that. We are a title theory state because we use the deed of trust concept, okay? Lien theory states use the mortgage concept. And how many parties are there to a mortgage? Two, in an actual mortgage. Now, like I say, once you leave here and go talk to your friends and family, yes, you learned something new and neat. But having said that, you're still going to call it a mortgage on a day-to-day basis. Yes.
So the trustee is a bank, basically, usually?
Well, normally it's a department within the bank. Okay? As we go through today, you'll start to recognize words that you might have seen if you paid attention to properties in the past. If a property is ever foreclosed on, you know they give public notice in the newspaper, and they'll say the property is actually being sold by a trustee. Oftentimes it's a substitute trustee, because when they get ready to go to foreclosure, what they do is they have an attorney fulfill that purpose. An attorney's office typically will do that. But a lot of times it's just a department within the bank that holds title for the actual beneficiary. Okay. All right, title theory, lien theory. You feel pretty good about those? North Carolina is in fact a title theory state. Do you see the words I use? Borrower holds equitable title, trustee holds legal title. In a lien theory state, which remember, we're taking a national exam, right? In a lien theory state, you only have two parties. Oh, let me show you this before we go to lunch, because this could be important.
Sorry, I have another question.
So, okay,
Could the lender and the trustee be within the same bank?
let's think of them as, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they can be, but think of them as being separate.
Okay.
Okay. In the mortgage concept, you only have two parties. You still have the lender, and you still have the borrower. But here's what happens in a lien theory state. The lender still gives the borrower money, but then basically the lender puts a lien on the borrower's property. They simply put a lien on the property and say, hey, as long as you pay us, we're not going to exercise that lien. If you do not pay us, then, of course, we will exercise our lien on the property. Now watch this. You remember that O-R-E-E thing. The O-R is always giving something, the E-E is always receiving something. In a mortgage, which party is the mortgagor and which one's the mortgagee? Who's the mortgagor and who's the mortgagee?
The lender.
The borrower is the mortgagor. Yeah. See, you're thinking about the bank giving money, okay? But when we're talking about a mortgage, we're not talking about the money. We're talking about giving up the collateral. So who is the party that's given the collateral? The borrower is basically saying, here's my house to use as collateral for this debt. So this is one of the ones that students screw up on, and it's because it feels like it should be the other way around. The mortgagor is actually the borrower. The mortgagee is actually the lender. Okay? Deed of trust versus mortgage, title theory versus lien theory. Boom. I know it's something you probably haven't put a lot of thought into coming into the class, and that's about the extent of what you need to remember about it. Okay? Let me point out just a couple other vocabulary words, and then we'll take our break. Mortgage loan instruments. I want you to look at the word promissory note. We've been going at it for a long time today, so let's take the easy way out. Whenever possible, take the easy way out. Promissory note looks like what word? Promise. That's exactly because that's what it is. A promissory note is simply a promise to repay a debt. A promissory note is a promise to repay a debt. It's an IOU. That's all a promissory note is. Have any of you ever signed a promissory note? Have you ever bought a car on credit? Have you ever bought furniture on credit? Have you ever bought a house on credit? If you did, you signed a promise to repay a debt. Now let me tell you why this is significant in this class. This is splitting hairs, but it's significant. Does a promissory note have to be in writing? Well, the answer is yes, because it's a contract that falls under the statute of frauds. All right? But here's the more interesting question. Does a promissory note have to be recorded? The answer is no. When you bought furniture, did they record your promissory note? When you bought a car, did they record your promissory note? They didn't, did they? A promissory note is simply a contract where you said, I owe somebody money and I'm going to pay it back under these terms. And you say, well, Chris, make it relevant. This is me making it relevant. A mortgage has to be recorded, right? Or at least it should be, right? Because the mortgage had to do with the conveyance of what? Real property, the title to real property, okay? So a promissory note could have been about anything. But a mortgage note is basically a promise to repay a debt, but with the title, with the collateral of real property as a conveyance there. And that's covered by the statute of frauds and the Contract Act. At the end of the day, what I want you to know is a promissory note a contract. Clearly it is. And it needs to spell out the terms and be signed. It has to be in writing. But a promissory note doesn't have to be recorded. It has absolutely nothing to do with the conveyance of the property. The mortgage has to be recorded because that's where I said I am giving up my property as collateral for a debt. You understand the distinction that I'm going for there? Okay, perfect. That's about the extent of what you will need to know in regards to that relationship. Okay? Clearly you understand that the promissory note will spell out the terms, but when you go and search for my property online, you will find my mortgage, technically my deed of trust, because it's recorded, right? You may even know how much I borrowed because the deed of trust may say so, but you will not know the terms of what I borrowed because that's going to be spelled out where? In the promissory note, which is not recorded. Okay? And then finally, one last word. Let me get this in as long as we're here. The word hypothecation. See if this sounds familiar to you. The word hypothecation. Hypothecation means that you have the right to possess a property even though you have given that property up as collateral for a debt. You have the right to possess the property even though you have given up that property as collateral for a debt. After you write down that definition, just step back from it for a moment and say, oh yeah, I get to live in my house even though I gave it up as collateral to the bank. Okay? Because remember, you don't hold legal title. In North Carolina, the trustee holds legal title if you owe the bank money. Make sense? Okay, if you visualize it, that will help. All right, y'all have done well this morning. Y'all have done well. So let's break, and let's come back at 1.